A warm welcome from Cell International. I am Monica Besser, the leading learning and development facilitator, Zero Champion, and Zero Tax Specialist for Cell International. Today we will be discussing some basics and tips and tricks for using Hubdoc. Hubdoc is something that is quite useful, especially if you're a business on the go. You can keep track of your important documents, such as agreements, and process bills, invoices, any form of supporting documents, quotations that you would receive in your small company. You can process via Hubdoc. If you make use of Xero as your accounting software, it does integrate with Xero as well. It is actually free of charge for standard subscriptions and above. I will be sharing my screen shortly and then just putting off my video to show you the basics that we will be going through. You would see we are currently in Hubdoc. You can access this via Xero or via Hubdoc's main website. If you're making use of Xero, you can log in using your Xero details. This might be something that your accountant has set up for you, and you can use to upload your documents for processing on their end. What you might notice is there is an app that you can use as well that is quite convenient if you out and about often. In the mobile app, it is as simple as taking a picture or a photo of your slip, invoice, etc., and uploading it on the spot for further processing. If you're making use of Hubdoc on your laptop or computer, you can upload a document by just dragging and dropping it in the main page. So if you go to processing, you can upload a document, drag and drop. You can also browse and upload it. Something that I want to show you to get started with is the settings for Hubdoc. You would notice that here is an option to upload documents via email. What's quite nice is this email, you can edit the email to make it a bit shorter. The standard email that Hubdoc provides is quite long sometimes. But what I find quite useful is to copy this email to the clipboard and create an email contact with that email address. That way, when you receive an invoice or a bill for payment in your inbox, you can automatically forward it to Hubdoc. Better yet, if you want to set up a rule in your email to automatically forward certain supplier invoices to this email, that would also be very convenient and an automated step to save some time. In Hubdoc itself, once you've uploaded a document via whichever path you chose, it would display under this All section. You would see this is just a demo document that we have uploaded. Your document type on the right, this is where you process what this document is. If you're integrating with Xero, you can then process the bottom piece that I've opened up for you here as well, and you can publish it to your Xero organization. This means that the bill that you've captured in Hubdoc automatically pulls through to Xero, and there's no need to process it further in Xero. All right. First field is to choose a document type. This is an example of an invoice, so we would be processing it as an invoice. The supplier is as displayed on my left. Invoice reference, this is generally a unique invoice reference. This example of our demo invoice does not have a unique reference, so I've just left it blank for now. The date, you would notice some of these fields like supplier, date, and amount has pulled through automatically. This is quite useful when you're using Hubdoc because it does extract data from your bills and it speeds up the process quite a bit as well. If you're registered for VAT, you do have the option to do VAT processing in Hubdoc as well, and that's also quite useful. If you're using Hubdoc to integrate with Xero, this bottom piece is quite important to process as well. This is basically how Xero would process the invoice in the Xero system. You're going to choose what it is published as. I am going to publish it as a purchase, being a purchase from a supplier. Okay. The other options here, a spend money item would be if you've paid for something and you have a slip, for example, for that item, that's a spend money item. The invoice option here, you would notice has AR behind it. That is actually accounts receivable invoices. So if you're not making use of Xero and you're making use of a different system and you would like to upload your invoices, that is an option here. Then, of course, there's also a credit note option. All right. Your status, you can choose draft, awaiting approval, or awaiting payment. What that basically means is in Xero, draft invoices or bills would still need approval for it to be recognized as an expense or an income in the accounting records. If something is awaiting approval, that's useful if there's two parties. The one is processing the supporting documents, and then a separate party needs to approve it before something is paid, for example. So that's quite useful in that instance. Generally, I just process it as awaiting payment. That means it captures it in Xero as a bill that the capturing is complete and we're just awaiting the payment. Then contact, this would be your contact in your Xero organization that you would process. It's generally the same as your contact that you would have up at the top. Right. The account, this would be the account that you want this to be processed to. As you can see, this says rental. So we would choose, for example, rent. Okay. As you can see, this contact, since it is only a demo document, this contact does not exist. So you do have the option to add it as a new contact, should you wish to. Then we do have a section here. Generally, this section is when tracking categories have been set up in Xero. The company that we are using as an example is a property company, so they have different properties that they allocate expenses to. If tracking fields is something that you're interested in or interested in setting up, that is something that we can assist with. But for now, we would proceed without it. Description, that is anything that you would wish to display. As the description. Okay. When you're ready and you're happy that everything has been processed correctly, you can choose the Publish All option. That would mean that it would be processed in Hubdoc as displayed above, and it would pull through the information to Xero as you have processed it here below. That is just the basics. One thing that I do want to mention is you would notice here is a save configuration option. I do find this quite useful. That means that the following supplier invoice that you receive from Foxglove would be processed as we have in Hubdoc here up top and below. So it would remember that you published it as a purchase, as a draft, or awaiting payment. It will remember that it needs to take it to the rent account. All right, and it also remembers the description. If you choose the auto sync option, this would automatically approve and publish any future bills that are sent to Hubdoc for this supplier. So I would be wary using this option. It would only be used in very specific circumstances. It's very useful if you have one supplier that always provides you with exactly the same thing. Rental is a good example. So you expect that every month the invoice is the same amount, the VAT treatment is the same every month, and the account that you want to use for processing would be the same every month, then that is an option that you can choose. If you want to make sure that everything looks correct before it is published, you just detick that option and it would wait for approval, and you specifically need to come and publish it before it pulls through to Xero. All right, that is just the basics of Hubdoc. I would, however, suggest that if you're making use of Xero, process your bills in Xero first, just as a starting point, and then to move over to Hubdoc once you're comfortable with the functionality in Xero. I hope you found this video useful and that you would join us in future for some more tips and tricks on Hubdoc, Xero, and other items.